Well, hello, I'm Chris Cahill, and welcome to Q4 Quest Business Coaching, where we're all about helping you outthink, outmaneuver, and outsell your competition by aligning dollars and dreams. Don't forget to visit us at q4quest.com. All right. Well, good morning. This is Chris Cahill, or Papa Joe, as a lot of people like to call us. I'm here today with my partner, Trevor Bunnell, aka Process Ninja or Coach T, depending on how you know him. And I'm excited with you to share a little bit about his story, what he brings to the Q4 family, and what ultimately I believe that he can bring to the people that we serve. So, Trevor, thanks for being with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And everybody else in the podcast sphere, it's a pleasure to virtually meet you as well.
Awesome. For those of you who do know Trevor, you know that he kind of operates in that white space, that void in the background. That's one of the ways he got his name, Ninja, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But a lot of times people ask what he does here, and he affectionately will tell you a story about that, I think, here in a minute. But the magic of what he does is really, it's ultimately the things that most of us don't like to do, don't want to do, or take for granted. And when it's building businesses, building churches, helping nonprofits, there's a lot of things that happen in the backgrounds that without those things, nothing would ever really be accomplished. But yet they often go unsung. And so at Q4, he really fills those gaps in for us all over the place. But more than just that, he also then brings those same skill sets to help teams fill them within their own company, their own mission, their own objectives, so that ultimately their visions become a reality much quicker as well. So that's the magic he brings to us, and the magic we believe that he brings to you. But without going on, Trevor, tell us a little bit about your story, how you kind of came to this vision, and what you're bringing to the table.
Well, some of my background, as you can tell, in a previous life, I was a firefighter, so a community servant. And that's kind of a theme that's followed me throughout my whole life. Like, when I was 15, I was helping teach children martial arts, and that's kind of continued out throughout my life. But then, into my mid-adulthood, I decided to be a firefighter, serve the community, and it was a great experience, and, wonderful time there. But I felt I was called to do something different and more. But the idea of serving has always been there. So I educated myself at the fire department a little bit further and found that I really enjoy process and, things when my friends talk about it, it's the potential for improvement. And there's a whole science algorithm behind that. And that nerd stuff really, gets me at my heart.
I'm glad it does you.
But so I went from serving communities one way to serving communities another way, by helping the companies that are the backbone of America, really create more jobs for the people in America, especially since we're here post-COVID and everybody's trying to recover. And I don't want everybody to have to rely on the government to do that. So,
yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about, because I know you through our nonprofit world and some of the work that we've done there. Tell me a little bit about that, and kind of how that helped expose you to Q4, just so people know.
Well, back when me and Papa Joe first met, it was a Tuesday, probably raining because we live in Florida. No.
Could have been
probably, but we were working with a nonprofit group that was helping kids learn how to read good. And if you know that quote, bless you. But through that exposure, I was able to meet Papa Joe / Chris, and I love the incremental process. They were doing incremental growth for students that were looking to get better at reading. I'm like, that is the perfect example for any type of growth. Like, you hit the gym, you are looking towards incremental growth. You can't go lift weights one day and be a strongman competition winner. It doesn't work.
Right.
And, if you want to be good at reading, you have to actually do it every day, or else you're not going to be good at reading. If you want to have a good business, you have to work it every day. You're not going to have a good business. So that if you would, Kaizen theology, mythology, somology is the right way to go when we talk about that.
And Kaizen, for those of you who don't know, obviously just being incremental improvements towards balance or towards alignment. Obviously from the Toyota, the Toyota dealership, and or plant or what have you after World War II and rebuilding and so forth. But so let's come back to that real quick. When you were talking about incremental improvements in the gym, and you're right. And I've got almost 20 years probably training businesses, and have a real passion and affinity, as you know, with insurance agents, financial advisors, financial planners, because they're selling, that intangible to the world that really is looking for something they can hold on to, and they're trying to sell change and improvement. And ultimately, when it comes down to helping people reach improvement, it's a challenge because you're asking people to change the status quo, the muscle memory that they already have. And like going to the gym, you start out New Year's resolution with all the ambition in the world. And most people, I think within 90 days, I think statistically 2/3 of people will stop what they're doing, if not more. By the end of the year, I think it's 96% we saw somewhere will actually finish the year with the goals that they started. And so whether it be financial planning, whether it be learning to read good, whether it be any of those things, you're right. And that is, as you know, what Q4 is really about, is helping people not only define where they're going, but then kind of refine their thought process, their construct, their way to make decisions, and then ultimately start aligning in ways that are sustainable where they're going. And so we're blessed to have you on the team. So tell me now a little bit about how that awakening, that revelation that we were doing with Q4, plus your education that you were working on, and all of that came full circle. And I believe with your dad's company is where you got to see the fruits of that, maybe first starting to make a significant impact.
Absolutely. So let me back up a step. We started talking about education. Like,
Sure.
Some of my background is things like organizational behavior management, applied psychology, psychometrics, change leadership, all these big words that make everybody's eyes glass over. Trust me, I tried to get people to understand what that is. It's not worth it. I have the education for it. It's wonderful. But when we talk about how did that start impacting, you brought up my dad's company. So right before COVID hit, I made a life change, and we moved to a new city, and back where my family was, which ended up being a blessing because I'm sure everybody out there struggled just like we did. But I was asked by him to come in and help realign his company so that it could be brought into succession. Now, I hadn't participated a whole lot in the company, but my brother did. He took some time, in between rediscovering himself, and my dad wanted some help so that he could work towards refining it for succession. And that's where I came in. And one of the biggest issues they had was safety. You look at, what costs companies money. Usually safety is one of those big target areas. So, looking at that, I did my normal nerd stuff. I created a new assessment. I made a new operating procedural manual. I worked with the change leadership team and the operations management. And what's funny though is like my dad, you wouldn't think is like a booming businessman, but he's really like the normal small town guy. Like he started with one truck, and now here we are 30 years later. He's got 50 trucks, and he goes anywhere from Daytona to the other side of Florida, ocean to ocean in our state delivering. So
Right.
He is that guy. All I'm going to do is put my boots on and go. Well, change the oil in the truck. That's me.
Yeah, love it.
He's the how's that go? Chef, cook, bottle washer.
Right, cheap cook and bottle water.
Yeah,
right there you go. Whatever you want to call it. He's everything, jack of all trades and master of most in most small business owner situations.
Absolutely,
Right on.
absolutely. But that's the thing is when you're constantly working your business, you don't really have a lot of time to work on your business.
Right.
And that's where I came in. I started doing those incremental changes to help decrease things. It ended up saving hundreds of thousands of dollars just because of fines or things like that could have been imposed on them. But again, it's that white space. Nobody really thinks of the upfront money. I'm not going to walk up and hand you $100,000. But when you look back at your budget at the end of the year, like, oh, that safety initiative worked. We saved $50,000, $100,000.
Right.
And that's my realm.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. In most small businesses, we see that everybody's really good, really passionate about something. They create widgets, they paint houses, they drive trucks, they fix yards, they fix cars, whatever it is they do, they're good at it. They have a passion for it, a gift. And as you know, we seriously and jokingly call it a superpower. They have a superpower, and they have the fortitude and the stick-to-itiveness and the drive, the passion, the calling, and all of those things to then put that into the workforce and into the communities and change lives, shape communities, create jobs, and all those great things that we love. And yet we do find that when you're really good at one thing, it's almost like the cards were stacked there, and then you've got weaknesses elsewhere. And it's usually in everything else that you need to make that sustainable. Even at Q4, we're really good at helping people understand their superpower. What we don't like doing is what a lot of people think we are, which is marketing. you know, as you know, we're not a marketing company. Everybody says, oh, Q4, you guys must be a sales and marketing company. And it's like, no, like Placid. We don't do anything. We do what you do better. And so by helping people find their superpower, like your story right there, helping people find out, hey, I love navigating trucks, making sure that things are delivered on time where they need to go. I love building a territory so that we're increasingly able to get a bigger footprint as to who's getting their things on a quicker time, safer, and all that. That's great that that's your passion. My passion then would be, how do we help you do that bigger, better, faster, stronger? And of course, your passion then is, how do we create the pipes, as we say, the infrastructure that you need to actually take the emotional visionary stuff that we talked about here at Q4, which is what we're really about, is finding, creating, and implementing your story. And then how do we take what you do, process, so that after you define it, refine it, we can actually put in sustainable steps for incremental improvements towards aligning what you do every day towards those things. And so when I think about everything that you're doing, take me back one more time, if you will, to some of what you're doing in the ninja world, in your dojo, your karate, in that educational form.
All right. So directly related to that, it's funny because everybody's different in their strengths and abilities, right? So imagine I have two separate people. One person's a 70-year-old, another person's a 15-year-old. Can I ask the 70-year-old to do a flying kick that's 6 feet tall?
You can ask.
I could
But
ask. It's not realistic though. So I can't, with that in its mind, like I don't try to make the apple the orange. It doesn't make sense. But I can make that 70-year-old really, really good at helping the next generation. You know, I can make that 15-year-old really, really good at 6 foot flying kicks. But different goals for different
right,
people, because different skill sets, different superpowers, things like that. Just like if I have a 300-pound guy not getting off the ground that well, but he might be the best at pushing people around.
right.
So I'm going to develop that. I don't need to focus on the things he can't do. I just need to make him great at the things he can.
I like that, and that's the truth. And I think a lot of times, even in marketing, I think people all of a sudden get bogged down into trying to get better at the things they can't. And it's like, if you've got 100 ingredients that make up you, what make you uniquely, perfectly you for the mission that you've been called to do, what we'll find is the 3 or 4 things that you do well is exactly what you need to thrive in that mission. And all of these other things you could spend the rest of your life trying to perfect. And it's kind of like, why don't you focus on the 20% of the things that you're so good at that makes an 80% difference, and then spend the rest of your life kind of working on this. And in fact, from a marketing perspective, we see that all the time. Whatever anybody has ever been good at in the past, they're convinced that that's the only way. So if you're a digital marketer and you're coming out, you believe search engine optimization and Facebook and LinkedIn crawling is the only way to grow. And that's true for a few people that love that stuff. For most of us, as we've talked about, you're spending $500, $1,500 a month in marketing and ad spend, and you're spending all kinds of money, and you're like, I'm not getting results. And the reality is you might not get results there. And if you do, it's definitely not going to be I did it once and I don't know why it didn't work. Social media marketing, since that's so vogue right now, is usually one of what?
77.
77. There's 77 different lanes you could run. In fact, Trevor, I'd like to ask you to come back and let's do this next week. And let's actually talk about those 77 because they come up so much. But is that all right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. So for those of you who don't know, Trevor teaches a class. There are 77 different ways that he looks at helping people figure out their superpower and how to take what they're trying to offer the world to market so that they can grow. And what they find is typically there's 3 or 4 or 5 that are vogue, and everyone is trying to kind of shove it down your throat saying, well, you need videos, or you need a podcast, or you need online marketing saturation, or yellow pages, or you need seminars. And the reality is all of those things are good. And you might do all of those things to complement substance, actually taking your superpower and giving it to the world that needs it. Batman helps Gotham. He doesn't go into the ocean. That's Aquaman's job. So what is your superpower so that when someone shines that bat symbol, so to speak, you can swoop in and save Gotham? And so if you're a house painter, who is it that specifically needs the style, the way, the shape, the price, the delivery, and the demographic and the area codes and so forth that you have? Because if you can refine and define yourself to that audience, you've become their superpower, instead of all of a sudden being duped into thinking, well, gee, my superpower I thought was good, but no one likes it. So what I need to do now is I need more Facebook ads for $500 a week, or I need another LinkedIn, or and those are all great. We do those too to some extent, but we don't try to put all our eggs on any one of those things. Those are more there, I think, to add relevance and kind of help add some depth and breadth to real substance. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think it's funny because I know we'll talk about this next week in a little bit more detail, but it's just all of those things are great unless you're just doing them without a superpower.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
and we all have a superpower.
What's the quickest way to make $1 million?
Start with 1,000,001, right? And spend one on Facebook, and right, you'll have 1 million. Absolutely. Well, Trevor, listen, I love what you're doing for the mission. I love what you're doing here locally, what you're doing for businesses and your servant's heart, obviously, and the lives that you've changed. I've seen you do classes now with educators. I've seen you work with financial professionals. I've seen you work with local small businesses. Of course, your dad's company, so multi-location stuff, nonprofits, as well as your, I know we've got some blue and white collar companies up and down the East Coast that you've started training. It's awesome. It's just awesome seeing all of the science and the heart and science of what you're doing really coming together. We're happy to have you on our team. I know the community is blessed, and those that haven't had a chance to work with you, I think they should. Come back next week. Let's talk about the 77 strategies. Talk to us a little bit about how people could maybe define their superpower or find their superpower, and then maybe how to align out of those 77, how do you find the right one or two or three that align with your superpower so that you can take the vision that's in your heart and make it scalable and really have the impact that you're desiring? Love to have you back next week, man. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Appreciate you being here. And I'll see you guys next week.
Awesome, man. Take care. Thanks for visiting us, Q4. I'm Chris, Papa Joe Cahill. Talk to you later. So whether you're ready to bring life in alignment or not is your call. But remember, in the end, we only regret the chances that we failed to take. Visit us online at q4quest.com. And if you're qualified, coachable, and committed to your growth, your future, let's talk today.